Refinement of Antichrist. Trilogy by Natalia Foley.
Chapter 28. Sure enough, within 15 minutes they were sitting in a small, well-worn minivan, listening to the driver's cheerful chatter. "You see, I was having dinner when they called me," the man said, grinning. "It's a little town, you know, so I said, sure, of course. Wow, my wife won't believe I was driving Teddy King. What a surprise." Yeah. Ted nodded, pretending to listen, though his mind was elsewhere. He wasn't really hearing the driver at all. His thoughts were trying to reboot. Or rather, he was trying not to think at all. He just held Jen close, breathing in the scent of her hair, savoring every second of this closeness, no matter the circumstances. He realized with quiet certainty that he loved her deeply, and that he'd do whatever it took to protect her, to keep her safe and happy. The driver kept rambling, but Ted had stopped listening. Instead, he watched as evening darkness settled over the mountains, wrapping the landscape in a soft, almost mystical hush. The van crept slowly along the narrow mountain road, dense fir trees lining the right, a bottomless ravine yawning on the left. The beauty of the place was breathtaking, impossible to ignore. Even in their shaken state, both Ted and Jen were captivated by the quiet grandeur of the wilderness around them. Lulled by the van's rhythmic rocking, Jen murmured, "How long to the observatory?" "Well, they said it's about 30 minutes, so I think we're really close." "Yeah!" the driver chimed in immediately. "We're almost there, just 4 or 5 miles maybe." But he didn't finish his sentence. The van lurched violently, roared, and swerved sideways, skidding toward the edge of the road. One wheel hung half over the abyss, suspended above the steep drop. "Shit!" the driver cried, gripping the wheel in panic. "What the hell?" "Oh no," Jen whispered. "Not again." "Don't panic," Ted reminded her softly. "Don't move," the driver yelled, trying to assess the situation. "What happened?" "I don't know," he replied, voice tight. "We almost went straight into that gully." "Can we back up?" Ted asked carefully. He felt as though he were acquiring a new skill, emergency situation communicator. "I'll try," the driver said calmly. Ted noted to himself that he'd been lucky today. First the pilot, now this driver. Both were true professionals. They'd assessed the danger without hysteria, then acted with steady competence, doing their best under impossible circumstances. The driver suddenly fell very quiet. He shifted the van into reverse and pressed the gas pedal, fighting to keep the wheels straight. The vehicle shuddered and began rolling backward, pulling its passengers away from certain death. But the trouble wasn't over. The engine coughed once, twice, then fell silent. Worse still, the van kept rolling backward and wouldn't stop no matter how desperately the driver stomped on the brake pedal. "Brakes aren't working!" he shouted, watching helplessly as the van crept down the steep mountain slope. Suddenly, Jen leapt from the seat behind him and yanked up the emergency brake lever. The van swung sharply and came to an unwilling halt. "Let's get out," Jen said, pushing Ted toward the doorway. "But," the driver protested, "we're not there yet." "How far is the observatory?" Ted asked. "What?" The driver couldn't believe it. "Are you going to walk there?" "Well," Ted hesitated. Jen leaned close, her lips nearly brushing Ted's ear. "Ted, have mercy on this driver." "Why?" Ted didn't understand. "He has a family. They're waiting for him to come home for dinner." Her voice was dry, urgent, hot with conviction. "Look, he shouldn't risk his life for our cause." But Ted still didn't get it. Jen grew impatient. "Don't you see? It's all because of us. Someone's trying to stop us from reaching Irvin. Don't you see that? So let's do it alone. We shouldn't drag anyone else into this." At that moment, the driver was staring at his van in stunned disbelief. There was nothing he could do alone. He decided to call his head office for help. His biggest worry was his passengers. After all, he was driving one of the most famous men in the country, Teddy King, the legendary TV tycoon, and he'd failed to deliver him and his wife to their destination. It felt like the worst setback of his professional life. He was ashamed, but also certain he wasn't at fault. He simply couldn't understand what had happened. Still, he requested a replacement vehicle and was promised another driver would arrive within half an hour. So when Ted asked again how far it was to the observatory and whether they could walk, he was almost offended. "Oh no, you don't want to go up there, not at this hour, it's nearly night." "Don't worry," Ted assured him. "If it's only 3 or 4 miles, we can easily walk it." "But I already arranged a car. The other driver will be here in half an hour max." Ted turned to Jen, seeking her approval. "Ted," she whispered fiercely, "don't do that. Remember what happened with the crew? They just disappeared. Then the pilots, and now this driver. Let's go. We're responsible for these people." "Jen," Ted tried to reason, "you're acting crazy, seriously. Why would we hike through this forest in the middle of the night? Alone?" Jen was unmoved. "Then you wait. I'll go alone." Okay, Ted relented. He could see there was no changing her mind. Besides, he thought, 3 or 4 miles? He'd walked farther in his younger days. He wasn't afraid. He turned to the driver. "My wife's a little tired. She needs some fresh air. We'll walk the rest of the way to the observatory. When your replacement arrives, just have him bring our luggage." "Sure thing," the driver nodded. He understood. After all, he had a wife too. And honestly, in a similar situation, he wouldn't argue with her either. "Just be careful. Stick to the road." Ted nodded and hurried to catch up with Jen. They walked along the mountain road, and for a while the walk was pleasant. "I think you were right," Ted said. "A little fresh air won't hurt." "Right," Jen agreed, breathing rhythmically, trying not to notice the dizziness creeping in. The mountain was high, the highest in Arizona, rising over 10,000 feet from the desert floor, and the thin air was already making itself felt. "Do you really think—" Ted began but didn't finish. Jen kept walking until she realized she no longer heard his footsteps behind her. She turned. Her husband was lying on the road. "Ted!" she cried. "Oh no, not this!" She rushed to him, cursing herself in that moment. She suddenly saw how irrational she'd been. Ted was 73. No matter how fit he seemed, he was exhausted. He'd been under immense stress. And now this sudden altitude change, after everything they'd endured today. "God, I'm an idiot," she whispered. But thankfully, Ted was already sitting up on the asphalt, looking around as if unsure where he was. "Ted, what happened?" "Jen," he smiled weakly. "I don't know. I think... Are you okay?" She held him tightly, kissing his face, gently touching his head, checking for injuries. "Did you fall?" "I'm not sure. It was like a fog. I think I just went limp." "Limp? You?" "Well, I'm a little older." They actually smiled at each other, perhaps for the first time all day. "Can you stand?" Jen asked. "Give me a moment." Ted pulled her close, and they sat side by side on the cold ground, shoulders touching, suddenly aware of how utterly exhausted they were. "What a day," Jen sighed, resting her head on his shoulder. "It's kind of hard to breathe," Ted murmured. "Right," Jen nodded. "The altitude. I feel dizzy." "Yeah, me too." A strange lightness filled their heads. Then they stopped feeling their bodies altogether, and then they both saw it. They were sitting on the very top of the earth, and the earth was melting away beneath them, dissolving into nothingness, leaving them suspended in an endless abyss. Consciousness slipped through their fingers like sand. They were sinking slowly, helplessly, into a thick, sugary, loathsome swoon, with no chance of return.
End of chapter. To be continued. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved.